right there. Hey, data lovers, and welcome to another I Love Data Fridays here on the campuses of The Ohio State University. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Our government might be shut down, but today I Love Data Fridays is open for business, and oh boy, are we going to be talking some data today. So that's right, you see on the screen today, our topics are going to be, we're going to be talking about some special ed data, where we can find some special ed data in our schools, and then we're going to look at some trend data for our, about our native language and intervention status for our ELL students over time. So, hey, who's talking data to you today? Well, you've got me, Jeff Breimer-Bashore, Director of IT and Operations here at the International Data Evaluation Center. Ladies and gentlemen, I always like to take questions at the end of I Love Data Fridays, and I will also be taking questions today. So if you see down here at the bottom of my screen, we have got a URL where you can go and post your questions to www.slido.com, and then all you have to do is enter event number E446, and I will see it right here on my screen, and I will answer your questions as best as I can. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about our questions today. So first, we're actually going to start off by looking at some English language learning student data trends over the last year. So I've got a couple charts that I want to show everybody in response to some questions that we got. And then we're going to try to answer a question about easily finding some special ed SPED data for school districts and schools. And then we're going to share a quick data success stories, places where data has been your friend and helped communicate your needs for schools and school districts. So, hey, let's get to it and let's talk a little data. I love Data Friday! All right, let's get into our first question here. All right, it says, Dear I Love Data Fridays, I was thinking about the increase in ELL students that we are seeing in our schools. I know that Pat Kelly and Judith Neal, among others, have done research regarding this population, but the research was done a number of years ago. I'm wondering what the distribution of the various languages served in reading recovery nationally was maybe 10-15 years ago and what it looks like now. I'm also curious about if and how outcomes for these students have changed. I know that one thing Kelly and Neal did was disaggregate the data by English language proficiency level in order to look at the outcomes. This might be interesting to look at again. All right, so there is our first set of two questions. Our first question right up here about the distribution of the various native languages that our students, that our ELL students speak. How has that changed over the last 10 or 15 years? And then our second part down here, we're going to look at disaggregate the outcomes by, actually, we're going to look at the percentage of kids who were discontinued by English language level proficiency. So now I realize I have forgot to bring up a tool here for me to use today. Let me see if I can find it here real quick. It's my Ink to Go. Helps me do screen annotations and everything. Put that over there. We'll let that, and then we're going to move on to our, do I have that going? There it is. All right, screen annotations. Excellent. All right, so let's move on. Actually, what we're going to do, what I've done is I put together I have put together some data in the form of some videos. Let me bring this over here. I'm going to stop that. I've got a lot of screens today and I'm shuffling around here. I was a little nervous about how that's going to go. So what I have here, ladies and gentlemen, is a chart, and you'll notice along the bottom of the chart are different native languages, and then you'll notice a bar for each of the language, and this is just telling us the percentage of students that speak this specific or speak this specific language. So notice at the top of the chart here we have our school year present at the top of the chart. And what I've tried to put together is a moving chart over time. So I've tried to put together a little video that the chart changes across the school years, and we can try to see what visually changes as we move through the school year. So we're going to look at about 12 years of data. So before I start the video, let me just start by giving some quick analysis of this chart. I think the main thing that jumps out is that the majority of our non-English speakers or non-native English speakers speak Spanish. It's somewhere around 75%. And then our next highest category is either our kids who speak Arabic over here, or children who speak some other language that isn't in any of these languages listed in here. So now, here's what we're going to do. First thing I'm going to ask you to do is to just watch the entire chart. Don't try to watch individual bars. Just let your eyes see the entire chart. You'll see the school year flip up at the top here, but we're just going to see how much the chart changes or jitters as we move it through the school years. And I'm just going to scroll it along. I'm not going to let the video play. I'm just going to use the scrobble down here, and we'll just move it right along, and we'll just see what our eyes can see. All right, I'm moving through the years. There we go. I've already gone through 12 years of data. I'm going to roll it back. Whoop. I'm going to move it through again. And I think the big thing that should jump out at you, some of you were probably just like, whoa, that didn't change at all. And I think that's the point, is that really the makeup of our students or the ELL students in their native languages hasn't really changed all that much. I'll move it back, scrobble it forth again here. I'm going to just move it back and forth, and you can look to see if you can notice any changes. The only thing that really stands out to me is the first thing is if we look at our Spanish speakers in 2005-06, they start out about here, and I think we'll notice that they drop if we move through the school years forward. So by the time we get to last year, 2016-17, they've dropped in percentage a little bit, probably down to about 71%. The other two groups that I think, or the only other group that's really changed, I think, is our other language, kids who speak some other language here, and maybe our Arabic speakers. Let's put a pencil mark right there. All right, and let's scrobble through that real quick. So we've seen that the number of kids who speak some other language goes up, and then also we can see a little minor uptick in the kids who speak Arabic. So really over time, there's not much. The rest of it's just really what I would probably refer to as just sort of like natural variation in the data. We just kind of see the bars just kind of blipping here along. So there we go. That is our look at the change in the distribution of languages over the last 12 years. I'm going to bring up a new one here, and we are going to look at, if I can find it, we're going to look at our some more ELL data. There it is. Open with VLC. There we go. All right, let me pause that. Oh, stop. Nope, stop. Oh, you're getting ahead of the game here. All right, there we go. Let me clear my screen, remove some marks. There we go. And so now we're looking at the percentage of kids who were discontinued by different by English proficiency levels. All right, so here's the different English proficiency levels, and on the left it's going kids who are the least proficient to the kids who are the most proficient. And what I'm looking at, I'm only looking at kids who had a chance to get a full program. So these are discontinued kids who received a full program. I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Out of kids who had a chance to get a full program, these are the discontinued children. Okay? So I also want to point out, I don't know if it's that we didn't collect data on, maybe we didn't have this category for a while, unable to respond as we move through there. This category only fills in maybe about halfway through the slides. Either we didn't start collecting data on unable to respond children until a little later, or maybe we just didn't have kids who fell into that category. I don't have the answer for that. So now let's just roll the video forward, and let's see what we can just notice looking at don't look at a specific bar, just look at the whole chart, and let's just see if we notice any big changes. All right, here I'm moving through. You notice that our unable to respond kids came in there. I'm going to scrobble it back. Let's watch it one more time. I'm going to move it back. And let's do it one more time. So I don't know if I notice any huge changes. I'm going to draw a line here. What I do notice, so once again, I think the key thing here is that nothing has changed too much in a radical sort of way. So I'm just going to draw a line. So in general, I think when we move through the years, the bars tend to keep sort of this type of, elevation where, as kids come into reading recovery that are more proficient, they discontinue at a higher level. I don't think that general sort of shape changes, and we can kind of look at that, see how that. So I think that it really kind of changes. I mean, I definitely think you see the bars fluctuate up and down. All right, I don't disagree with that. There's certainly changes over the year. There's fluctuation over the year. The only big thing that kind of jumps out at me, I'm just going to put a mark right here, and I don't know if it's really significant. But with our kids who are unable to respond when they come into reading recovery in the fall, they seem to have the biggest change, or they do the most jumping around. And then I don't know if I have a good answer for that, other than maybe there's two things that come to mind. One, we just may have a small number of kids who fall into this category, and when you have a small number of data and you look at over time, data tends to jump around like that. Or really the kids are, really varying that much from year in their discontinuing rate from year to year. But other than that, I don't think. I mean, we certainly see a low point there. Year before it was higher. It ticks up, and so I don't know if there is much to say about it other than it doesn't change too much. We certainly have variation and fluctuation, but there's definitely a pattern, and there isn't anything that stands out too much in the chart. So there you go. This is the percentage of kids discontinued out of kids who got a full program for our children by oh goodness, now I can't even think of it, by our total mind blank here, by different English proficiency levels. There we go. Okay, so that is our first part of I Love Data for Itis. Let me clear that off the screen. Let me bring this back up, and let me clear this off. And we're going to go right into our next section of data. All right, so our next question here, let me move this out of the way so we can see that. It says, my question is, can we find an easy way to identify how many students within our district versus building begin reading recovery with an IEP, and in what area? A related question would be, how many students are placed in special ed during or after reading recovery? Both relate to each child's first grade school year. I'm interested in knowing what percentage of these children we serve with what percentage of children we serve with these needs. I'm going to hold off reading this part down here because that's actually coming up to the end, a little data celebration. So let me get into special ed data. So our teacher leader is looking how to is there an easy way to locate some special ed data? And I need to have her question up to the side here. Let me do a quick copy and paste of her question so I can refer back to it. Because sometimes I just need to know what people are saying. I'm going to paste that over here. All right, we're good. Bring this back up at 5. There we go. So there's kind of some good news and bad news is that we do have one easy place that we can find some special ed data that will probably answer about 70% of this question. And that's in table 7.2 in a school district report. The other sort of bad news is that we will have to, the schools don't have this equivalent 7.2 or any special ed data in them. So we'll have to resort to the data dump. So I'm going to show that as well, even though looking through the data dump is not as easy. It's always good to learn new things, and I think we'll do it. But first, I want to start with the table 7.2, and here is an example of table 7.2. So what we are looking at here in table 7.2 is that the table is broken down into, we're looking at special ed information. And these first few rows here are just reporting whether or not the child receives special education services, yes or no. Then we will, for each of these columns, these are different intervention statuses. So we can know by intervention statuses how many students received special education services. So for example, in this example, the DISC 17 children did not receive special education services, and 5 children did receive special education services. If you go down here, it tells us what primary service they received in their special as part of their special education IEP. So for this example, I'm going to go to our recommended kids here, the recommended column. 1 children had some sort of special ed class. 5 children saw a speech and language specialist. Then we can go down here. It tells us when the special ed was initiated, either before, during, or after reading recovery. So I'm going to go back to my recommended kids right here. 5 got special ed before reading recovery, and 1 got special ed after reading recovery. Where was it located? Where was that special ed located? Whether it was a pull out or in class. If we look at our recommended kids, 6 of the kids were pulled out. Okay. And then how many times a week they got it. So if you go back to our special ed kids, or our recommended kids, we see that 5 children had special ed, some sort of special ed assistance 2 days a week, and 1 child had it 5 days a week. So there you go. You can look up some special ed data right there. Now, this doesn't quite help us answer the question that the teacher leader put to us, because the teacher leader is specifically wanting to know, let's see, it's in here. A related question would be how many students were, no, that's not it. My question is, can we find an easy way to identify how many students in our district versus a building begin reading recovery with an IEP? Begin reading recovery with an IEP. So as building versus school district. So obviously we don't have this table for a school. We do have it for a school district. We know how many kids are beginning. We can kind of tell which ones are. This before, during, and after will tell us how many kids have a special ed program before reading recovery. But what we don't know is, for those kids who got it before, we don't know which area they fall into. So we have to revert to our data dump. Now, there's no groaning. I know some of you are like, oh no, we got to look at the data dump. No, that's all right. We can do this together. So now, I'm going to switch slides here. We're going to look into our data dump, and let me bring out my data dump here real quick. Get that up and going. Hello, Excel. How are you today? Good. All right. Glad we're ready. Let me put this off to the side. Okay. So now, there's a few things that I know all of you are sort of agonizing over about data dumps. You know, the first thing you hate about data dumps is when you scroll down in the data dump, you lose where everything is at. See, we don't know what the column names are anymore when we scroll down to the bottom of the data dump. So we're going to learn how to, quickly, we're going to learn how to freeze that first row, to keep that first row visible. The other thing you hide is that there's so many stinking columns in this data dump. I'm always constantly scrolling left and right to find where I need to be in my data dump, and then I just end up getting dizzy and nauseous because the screen keeps jumping around all the time. So we're going to learn how to hide columns. We're going to hide the columns we don't need, so we're not constantly scrolling left and right. And then finally, we're going to use a little data filtering to show only the data that we want. All right, so we're like going to query our data. All right, so first things first, we are going to freeze our first row, so we keep all of our top row always visible. And we're going to go up to the View tab right here. And then we're going to click on freeze panes, and we're going to say freeze top row. Now it kind of makes this, and if we do that, then what should happen is that when we scroll down, look how this first row, look right here, I'm going to highlight it because, I have to use this new tool. Watch this first row right here. Watch how that first row stays right where it's supposed to be at. It's not moving, okay? Excellent, good. All right, let's clear that off. All right. So now, we're just going to put together the columns of we don't need every piece of data in our data dump. Like, for example, to answer this question, I don't need to know about teacher data and building data, about the schools and stuff. I just need to know special ed data about the students. So we don't have to look at every column all the time in our data dump. We can hide columns. So in this example, what we're going to do is we're going to hide the following columns. We're going to hide columns E through BN, and that's teacher data and building data. We're specifically hiding teacher data and building data. And then we're going to hide columns BT through ET, and that's the background. That's going to hide all of our background, fall, entry, exit, mid-year, and year-end data. And you're like, Jeff, how did you figure this all out? You don't memorize these things, do you? No, I don't, believe it or not, because I have other things to do in the evening other than memorizing where things are in the data dump. But what we have done for you is we have created, if you go to our website and you go to publications, and if you go to this folder right here, column lists, we have created documents that list all of the columns in the data dump. I'm going to download one here real quick for last year. Open it up. And so what it tells you is what data is in the data dump and what column they are in. They're in sort of this alphabetical order by the column in the data dump. So, for example, if I just do the search for the word special ed, we can see that special ed information was the child referred, starts at column ES, but that's not quite the one. We want to start at this one right here. Did this child receive special education services at the start of the year? So I know which columns to hide. So I'm gonna, so I know that if I hide columns ET, and then I can't remember where building data starts, or background data. That's teacher data, teacher data, teacher data, teacher data, teacher. Here we go. Student data starts here around BP. So we can start hiding columns there. So I went to this document beforehand, looked at what columns I could hide, and then I've just wrote them down later for here. So we're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to hide this first set of columns, this E through BN, all right? And Excel can make that easy for you. We're going to come and click in this little box in the top right-hand corner. I don't know what that box is called. I'm just going to call it the selector box. All right, so I'm going to type the letter E, then colon, BN, and this just tells Excel we're going to select columns E through BN, and then I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard. And it selected all of the columns for me. All right, it's highlighted them on the screen. I'm going to take my mouse. I'm going to put it up here in column E, not right on top of the E, just to the right of it. And I'm going to right click if you're on a Windows computer, a 2-finger click if you're on a Mac. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to say hide. And what it has done is it puts columns DE and BO right next to each other. All right, so all of those columns are hidden now. So now I'm going to go back to my presentation, and we have to do BP through ET. So I'm just going to come back up to my selector box, BP, colon, ET, enter. It selects them for me. I am going to right click and say, and it's a 2-finger click for the Mac. Let me slow down again, folks. You can click anywhere up on this top bar here. I'm just going to click just to the right of BS here, up where it says BS. Right click, 2-finger click if you're a Mac, and I'm going to say hide. And now I'm going to scroll back to the left a little bit. So now I've got my school district, my building name, my teacher name, my student name, what student group the student was a part of, and then right there, boom, it starts with the special education data. Did they receive special education this year? How was special education service provided? Where was it provided? I'm sorry, when was it provided? Where was it provided? How often? Okay, so all of that is right together, and I don't have to go scrolling around the screen crazy amounts. So now, this comes to our next part where we are going to do data filtering to search for the data we just want. All right, because right now our data is showing us, data for all of our children. So I'm going to turn on our data filtering. I'm going to click on this data tab up at the top. And then I'm going to click on this filter button. And when I do that, Excel's going to jump a little bit. Oh, it didn't do that. It made a liar out of me. I got to click in there. Click. Now I'm going to click filter. Oh, it didn't jump. I tell you, the 9 times I practiced this week, it jumped to the far right-hand side of my... All right, whatever. I'm getting over it. We're moving on. Okay. Okay, so let me make the point that even though Excel even does unexpected things for me, in this case, it unexpectedly did not make life hard, which I'm going to take as a victory. All right, so this filtering allows us to filter for specific things in our data dump. So I can notice how we've got these little drop-down boxes next to the column header names up at the top here. This will allow us to select specific things. So if I click here, I am telling Excel, I only want to look at all of the data for school number 1. And you'll notice now that all of the rows here are school number 1. And at the bottom, it tells me that it has found 14 of those rows right down here in the bottom left-hand corner. 14 out of 47 records. Well, let's bring in school number 2. So all I have to do is add a check for school number 2. So now I've got school 1 and school 2, 23 rows out of 47. So we can select our different things there. So I'm going to select all my schools again. I am going to make sure that it's just reading recovery children. There we go. And I'm going to make sure that it's kids where the teacher indicated, yes, the child was receiving special education services. So there we go. And now let me get back to our question. Our question was, easy way to identify how many students within our district versus building begin reading recovery with an IEP and in what area? All right, so they begin reading recovery with an IEP. So we want those kids who had an IEP, and I'm going to change a filter, had a reading recovery IEP before reading recovery. And there we go. And now we can tell how was the service provided, or the question was, in what area? So we just scroll over and we can see that in here, a lot of these kids were speech and language. Most of them, all of them except for 3 were speech and language. So now you could do that. We could individually select schools. So I'm just going to bring in, let's just look at school number 1. So we had 2 kids in school number 1 that were had special ed before reading recovery, and they were both for speech and language. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. This is, I totally admit this is not the easy way to do it. Table 7.2 provides a little bit of an easy way to do it, but you can still do it with your data dump. Just learning how to freeze your first row, learning how to hide columns. If you can just learn how to do the first 2, your life becomes 80% easier in Excel, and then the other 20% will be made up by this data filtering and everything. And don't forget that you can go to the website and download the data dump column list from our website. You go to publications, you click on the column list folder, and you find which school year you want to download, and it'll tell you what is where in the data dump. And then you can simply do what I did and list out the columns that you want to hide. Good news, as you practice this, you'll become more proficient at it. So, okay, that's enough of that part of I Love Data Fridays. It is now time to get on to our data success story. I'm going to go back up here over my slides a little bit and read. Oh, not that one. Back. There we go. I'm going to start right here. So it says, my data celebration would be the positive effect the total score has on measuring student growth and understanding that our population of reading recovery kids has been changing based on fall literacy awareness measured by the total score. So I talked to the teacher leader about this, and what she was really was saying was that, and I think a lot of you at times have had to deal with this problem. You've noticed that your student population has started to change. In the fall, you have noticed over the years that the kids are becoming more difficult to teach. They're coming in with less skills. Um, and it's hard to show that with using the individual tasks of the observation survey. They all may show that the kids are slightly lower, but they don't, it's hard to sort of give this overall picture. And this is where the OS total score can be very, very handy. And this is just a sample chart. And what we're looking at in this example is the growth from the beginning of the school year, which is represented by the bottom of each bar, to the end of the school year, which is represented by the top of each bar. In this example, these 3 bars are showing the growth of full program students in a sample school district. So these are full program students. And then this is the average first grader, as our national random sample. I prefer using this terminology if something's going to a school administrator. And then you see how many years of growth the students made compared to the average first grader. The average first grader is always our 1 year of growth. But you can notice in this example that there is, the teacher leader is, seeing, this downward trend in their fall scores. And so in the OS total score can clearly show this, and you can show this to a school district administrator or a principal that, your school's changing and we need to react to this change. So a nice little data success story. The teacher leader has shown it to several of her, has shown this to some administrators, and, says this has really made an impact on them. So there you go, another use for our OS total score. Little data success stories. Ladies and gentlemen, I would love to have more data success stories sent my way for I Love Data Fridays, because the more that I can share, the more that your colleagues can sort of put into their data arsenal and use as they go out and advocate for their implementations. All right, so hey, we're gonna get ready to close out here. I am going to look over at my screen and see if we have any questions over at slido.com. I'm also going to look at the live chat window on I Love Data Fridays here, see if we got any questions. So far, no questions whatsoever. So while I'm waiting to see if any questions roll in, I will let you know we've got our sign up for the national conference online, and it's a horrible, ugly URL. I will drag a window over here. Actually, let me show you the easy way to find that. If you go to signupgenius.com, sign up. Yeah, let me take off all this. Blah 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 blah. Signupgenius.com. If you click on the search button up here, if you come over to this box that says search for a sign up, if you just type in helpdesk at idecweb.us, click I am not a robot. Click on that. Click search. And you'll find our data consultation sign up right here. And you can, come on, data consultation. There you go. And you can sign yourself up for a data consultation at the I Love Data table at the conference. You don't have to sign up. We will take walk-ups. That's great. Not a problem. If you do sign up, if you happen to know your topic, you can include your topic of what you want to talk to us about. That way we get a little chance to prepare ahead of time. This year, we're offering not only a sticker, an I Love Data sticker, we're offering an I Love Data tattoo, and we're going to have our I Love Data mugs to give away at the I Love Data table. So please, stop on by, do a consultation, get all 3 of those, and that'll be good. So ladies and gentlemen, I am not seeing any questions. Let me just double check the YouTube chat channel, make sure nothing's rolled in there. Do not see anything on the live chat there as well. So I tell you what's going to happen. Oh, hey, ladies and gentlemen, also don't forget if you haven't subscribed to our channel, uh, oh shoot, the subscribe button is not on this screen right here. Click that little subscribe button on YouTube there and subscribe to our IDEC channel. That way you get notified of all of our videos that are going on. Okay, now we're going to cue that outro music. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you once again for watching another I Love Data Fridays here at the International Data Evaluation Center. And ladies and gentlemen, we will talk data to you later.